The little girl in the game wasn't supposed to remember me. She wasn't supposed to grab my arm with fingers that felt cold. Not digitally simulated cold from a haptic glove, but the kind of deep, permeating cold that seeps into your bones and makes you question where the simulation ends and reality begins. She looked up at me, her pixel-perfect eyes filled with a terrifyingly real sorrow, and whispered a single, impossible sentence that shattered my entire understanding of the world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. To understand how I ended up with an impossible object from a virtual world sitting on my desk, you have to understand the beginning. This is a new channel with unbelievable stories every day. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. My name is Alex. I'm 28, and for the last 6 years, I've been a senior game developer for a pretty well-known studio. My life is code. I live and breathe it. I dream in C++ and think in logic loops. To me, there's no such thing as magic, only technology we don't understand yet. I've always been fascinated by the line between the artificial and the real, and my job is essentially to blur that line as much as possible. Creating worlds, breathing life into characters through complex AL, designing systems so immersive that players forget they're wearing a headset. That's my passion. So when Innovatech Park opened just an hour from my city, I was practically vibrating with excitement. This wasn't some run-of-the-mill theme park with rusty roller coasters and overpriced cotton candy. This was the future, today. It was a monument to cutting-edge technology, and its crown jewel was a VR experience called Echoes of Aethelgard. The marketing was relentless. They promised a fully immersive, sensory-rich experience that was indistinguishable from reality. It used a proprietary Neuralink headset and a full-body haptic suit that supposedly simulated everything from the warmth of a fireplace to the impact of a raindrop. As a developer, I was skeptical, but deeply intrigued. The tech they were describing was at least a decade ahead of anything commercially available. My friends Liam and Maya were just as hyped. Liam, a hardware engineer and my resident cynic, wanted to see if their tech was really as revolutionary as they claimed. Maya, an artist who finds beauty in everything, was just excited to experience a new form of storytelling. We bought tickets for the opening weekend. The park itself was sterile, almost unnervingly clean, all chrome and white composite, with silent maglev trams gliding between attractions. It felt less like a place of fun, and more like a corporate campus for a futuristic tech giant. We headed straight for the Aethelgard Pavilion, a massive, obsidian black dome that hummed with a low, powerful thrum of energy. Inside, the air was cool, and smelled of ozone, like the air after a thunderstorm. We were led into individual pods, sleek white chambers that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. An automated voice guided us through the suiting-up process. The haptic suit was a marvel, a thin, mesh-like fabric that clung to you, humming softly as it calibrated. Then came the headset. It wasn't a clunky box like an Oculus or Vive. It was a slender, elegant visor that covered the eyes and had soft pads that rested against the temples. As it powered on, the world dissolved. Not in a jarring flash, but in a gentle, seamless fade. One moment I was in a white pod. The next I was standing on a grassy hill, a gentle breeze ruffling my hair. I could feel the warmth of a twin-sun sky on my skin. I looked down and saw my hands. Not my real hands, but perfectly rendered gauntlets of aged leather and steel. I could feel the texture of the leather, the cool weight of the metal. I clenched my fists, and the sensation was 1-to-1. I turned and saw Liam and Maya, decked out in their own fantasy gear. Liam's jaw was slack.
Okay,
He said, his voice a mix of awe and disbelief.
I'm impressed. The latency is non-existent. The resolution is perfect.
Maya was already running through the field of digital flowers, laughing. "It's beautiful," she cried.
I can smell them. They smell like honey and sunshine.
The world of Aethelgard was a high fantasy paradise. A bustling medieval town nestled in a valley, with towering crystalline mountains in the distance. The level of detail was staggering. Every stone in the cobblestone path, every leaf on the trees, every NPC villager going about their day, it was all flawless. As a developer, I was trying to peek behind the curtain. I was looking for the seams, the repeated textures, the telltale signs of a procedurally generated world. I found none. I knelt and examined a patch of moss on a stone wall. It wasn't just a flat green texture. It had depth, individual strands, and tiny droplets of dew that caught the light. It was too random, Too organic. Must be a hell of an algorithm, asterisk, I thought to myself. We spent what felt like hours exploring, completing a simple quest to clear out some goblins from a nearby cave. The combat was exhilarating. The haptic suit registered the impact of a blocked sword strike with a solid jolt. The headset filled my ears with the clang of steel. But even amidst the perfection, tiny, unsettling things started to stand out to me. Things my friends didn't notice. While they were marveling at the big picture, I was getting lost in the details. The sound design was immaculate, but sometimes, beneath the chirping of birds and the chatter of the village, I'd hear a faint whisper on the wind. It was too quiet to make out the words, but it didn't sound like part of the ambient audio loop. It sounded sad. Liam and Maya said they couldn't hear anything.
You're just listening too hard, Alex.
Liam said, clapping me on the shoulder.
You're trying to debug a masterpiece. Just enjoy it.
Maybe he was right. I tried to let go. And then we met Ilara. She was an NPC, a little girl standing by the town well. According to the quest log that hovered in my peripheral vision, she was supposed to give us a charm for protection against the shadows in the forest. A standard, boilerplate RPG task. Liam, being the party leader, initiated the dialogue. The girl, Ilara, recited her lines perfectly. Her voice was professionally acted, her animations smooth. She was supposed to hand the charm to the player who spoke to her, but she didn't. Her eyes, which should have been locked onto Liam, drifted away from him and settled on me. It was an unnerving, direct gaze. Her scripted smile faltered, replaced by a look of recognition? It was impossible. We were anonymous players. Our avatars were generic. There was no way for her to distinguish me from anyone else. Liam tried the dialogue prompt again.
Hello there, little one. We were told you have a charm for us.
Ilara ignored him. She took a step towards me, her tiny, digital hand reaching out.
It's you,
She whispered. Her voice was different now. The professional voice acting was gone. This was the voice of a real child, fragile and laced with a strange, longing sadness. The whisper I'd heard on the wind. My friends couldn't hear this new voice. The game's audio system was supposed to isolate non-essential dialogue to the primary interactor. But I heard it clear as day. She walked right up to me, her owl pathing overriding the game's social distancing protocols. She looked up, her blue eyes seeming to peer right through my avatar, right through the headset, and into me.
You came back.
She said, her voice trembling.
Don't leave me again.
She pressed the charm into my hand. My haptic glove registered the smooth, cool surface of a polished stone, and then the cold came. It wasn't the temperature of the stone. It was a wave of profound, unnatural chill that started in my hand and shot up my arm. It felt like grief, like loss. It was an emotion, transmitted through a machine. My breath hitched.
What the hell?
I muttered.
What's wrong, Alex?
Maya asked, her avatar turning towards me.
You look like you've seen a ghost.
Before I could answer, a system message popped up in my vision. Quest complete. Ilara's expression went blank. The light in her eyes vanished, and she turned and skipped away, humming the cheerful, scripted tune she was supposed to. The moment was over. She was just an NPC again. But I wasn't okay. The chill in my arm lingered for a full minute after. Liam and Maya laughed it off. Dude, the haptics are so good they're freaking you out, Lamb said. That's what you call immersion. But I knew it wasn't that. An owl doesn't break its own script. It doesn't deliver custom emotional dialogue that only one player can hear. It doesn't look at you with eyes that seem to hold 100 years of sorrow. I spent the rest of the day in a daze. I couldn't shake the feeling. Don't leave me again. What did that mean? Was it some advanced adaptive owl I'd never heard of? Was it pulling data from somewhere? My mind raced through the possibilities, but none of them made sense. The park's privacy policy was ironclad. No personal data was ever accessed by the game's owl. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the moment over and over. Her eyes, her voice, the cold. I went down a rabbit hole online, searching for anything about Aethelgard's core programming, its OWL engine. I searched forums, developer blogs, tech news sites. Nothing. Innovatech had kept its technology completely under wraps. I found a few Reddit threads from other opening weekend players. They all said the same thing.
Mind-blowing.
Unbelievably realistic.
Game of the century.
No one mentioned any strange encounters. No one mentioned a sad little girl who went off script. It was just me. I tried to talk to Liam about it the next day. "Listen, man," he said, his voice patient but firm. "You design these systems for a living. You know how complex they are. It was probably a 1 in a million glitch, a bug in the adaptive dialogue tree. Don't build a conspiracy theory around a piece of buggy code." He was being logical. He was being rational. He was saying everything my own developer brain was screaming at me. And yet, I couldn't accept it. What I felt wasn't a bug. It was personal. By the end of the week, I had made a decision. I was going back. Alone. I needed to see her again. I needed to know if I was losing my mind. The second visit to the park felt different. The initial awe was gone, replaced by a nervous, gnawing anxiety. The chrome and glass structures seemed less like a beacon of the future and more like a cold, sterile laboratory. The hum of the Aethelgard dome sounded less like power and more like a warning. I suited up in the same white pod, but this time, my hands were trembling slightly as the visor lowered over my eyes. When the world of Aethelgard materialized around me, my heart sank. It wasn't the same place. The vibrant, sun-drenched valley was gone. The sky was a bruised, oppressive gray. A cold, damp wind blew through the town, carrying not the scent of flowers, but the smell of wet earth and decay. The cheerful NPCs were still there, but they were wrong. Their movements were listless, their faces locked in somber expressions. Instead of cheerful greetings, they muttered phrases as I passed.
"The shadow grows,"
one said.
A sadness has settled on this place,
whispered another. The game's atmosphere had dynamically shifted into something dark and melancholic. It was a feature, I was sure, designed to reflect some in-game event. But it felt too targeted. It felt like the world itself was mourning. I didn't care about quests. I walked directly to the town well, my heart pounding in my chest. She was there. Ilara. She wasn't standing and waiting like before. She was sitting on the edge of the stone well, her small shoulders slumped, her face buried in her hands. Her quiet, digital sobs were the most heartbreaking sound I had ever heard. I approached slowly.
Ilara?
I said, my voice quiet. She looked up, and the change was shocking. Her character model was degrading. There were faint, static-like flickers around her edges, like a corrupted video file. Her colors were muted, and her eyes, once a bright blue, were now a faded, sorrowful gray. The game wasn't just sad. It was falling apart around her. She scrambled to her feet and ran to me, not with the programmed skip of an NPC, but with the desperate urgency of a real child. She didn't stop a polite distance away. She ran right up to me and threw her arms around my waist. The haptic suit registered the pressure, the slight weight. It felt real.
You came back.
She sobbed into my chest.
I knew you would. It's so cold here now, so dark.
I was frozen. My developer brain was screaming at me. This is impossible. Collision detection, AL boundaries, scripted emotional states, all of it was being violated. This was more than a glitch. This was a complete system failure, a cascade of errors that should have crashed the entire simulation. I tried to debug it from within.
Execute command status.
I thought, trying to access a developer overlay. Nothing.
Run diagnostics. NPC Ilara.
Access denied. What would you have done in my place? Write it in the comments. Would you have logged out immediately? Would you have tried to play along, to comfort this ghost in the machine? I felt a strange, overwhelming sense of pity and responsibility. This wasn't just code anymore. I knelt, my virtual knees hitting the cobblestones.
What's wrong, Ilara? What's happening?
She pulled back, her flickering hands reaching up to my face. Her touch was icy.
"I'm forgetting."
She whispered, her voice laced with panic.
The edges are getting blurry, like an old photograph. Please don't let me fade away.
I didn't know what to say. How do you comfort a program? How do you reason with an anomaly? Then, she did something that broke the last barrier of my disbelief.
I kept something for you,
she said, so you wouldn't forget me this time. She opened her small hand. In her palm was a small, intricately carved wooden bird. It looked ancient, The wood worn smooth with time. It wasn't a quest item. It wasn't a shiny, magical asset. It was a simple, mundane object. She pressed it into my hand. The haptic feedback was perfect. I could feel the grain of the wood, the delicate shape of the wings, the solid weight of it.
Keep it safe.
She pleaded.
Promise me.
And then the world tore itself apart. A loud, screeching sound, like a modem dialing up, erupted in my ears. The visuals warped and distorted. The ground beneath me pixelated and vanished. A bright red error message filled my vision. Fatal system anomaly detected, forcing session termination. A klaxon blared in the real world, and the visor went black. I was ripped out of Aethelgard with a nauseating jolt. I sat there in the white pod, breathing heavily, my heart hammering against my ribs. The automated voice was calmly apologizing for the
Technical difficulties.
and announcing that my ticket would be refunded. I ignored it. I was focused on my right hand. The haptic glove felt full. There was something in my palm. My mind was screaming, no, it's impossible. It's phantom sensory feedback. It's your brain playing tricks on you. Slowly, I pulled off the thin, mesh glove, and I stopped breathing. Lying in the palm of my very real flesh-and-blood hand was the small, worn wooden bird. It was impossible. It defied every law of physics and computer science I had ever known. You can't pull an object out of a digital world. Data cannot spontaneously become matter. I stared at it, turning it over and over. It was real. It was solid. I could feel the faint scent of old wood and something else. Ozone? I frantically checked my pockets. Did I bring it in with me? Did someone plant it on me? No. I had been wearing a skin-tight haptic suit. There was nowhere to hide anything. This object had materialized in my hand. It had crossed the uncrossable barrier. I stumbled out of the pod, clutching the bird so tightly my knuckles were white. The park staff were running around, looking panicked. I overheard one of them talking into a radio.
Server Bank 7 is offline. The whole Aethelgard wing is down. We have a core corruption of some kind.
Core corruption. Ilara. I didn't wait for an explanation. I ran. I left the park, got in my car, and drove, my mind a screaming vortex of terror and confusion. The wooden bird sat on the passenger seat, a solid, undeniable paradox. For days I was a wreck. I couldn't work. I couldn't eat. I just sat in my apartment, staring at the bird. Liam called me, worried. I tried to explain, but how do you tell your most rational friend that you've smuggled an item out of a video game? He listened patiently, then gently suggested I take some time off, that maybe the stress of my job was getting to me. He thought I was having a breakdown. Maybe I was. But the bird was still there. It was my proof. It was my anchor to sanity, even though its very existence was insane. My developer brain finally rebooted, pushing past the fear and into pure, obsessive analysis. The glitch wasn't in the code. The problem wasn't the park's technology. The problem was older, deeper, Ilara said.
Don't let me fade away.
She said.
It's so dark here now.
She wasn't an AI. She was something else, trapped inside the machine, and the machine was failing to contain her. The park's location. I had a sudden, desperate thought. Where was it built? Tech companies love buying up cheap land. I started digging. Not into tech specs, but into public records, zoning permits, land deeds, historical surveys. I spent an entire day at the county archives, a dusty, silent place that smelled of decaying paper. I sifted through old maps and property records, tracing the ownership of the land Innovatech Park was built on. For decades, it was just empty fields. But before that, in the 1950s, there was a building there, the St. Jude's Orphanage for Children. A chill, colder than the one I felt in the game, snaked down my spine. I searched the newspaper microfilms for that name, and I found it. An article from October 1957. The headline was stark. Orphanage Tragedy. Holiday Fire Claims 8 Young Lives. My hands were shaking so hard I could barely focus the lens. I read the article, my blood turning to ice water. A fire had broken out late one night, trapping many of the children and staff inside. It was a horrific tragedy. The article listed the names of the victims, and near the bottom of the list was her name, Alara M., age 8. The article included a blurry, black-and-white photo of some of the children taken a few weeks before the fire. I zoomed in, and there she was, a small, smiling girl with bright eyes, holding something in her hand. The photo caption, typed in stark, clinical font, delivered the final, devastating blow. Alara M., one of the youngest victims, was reportedly found in the aftermath of the fire, clutching her favorite hand-carved wooden bird. I fell back in my chair, the world tilting on its axis. It all clicked into place with horrifying clarity. The park wasn't just built on the land. Its massive server banks, its powerful electromagnetic systems, its neural link technology. It was all sitting directly on top of a place of immense tragedy and emotional energy. The glitch wasn't a glitch. The anomaly wasn't code. It was her, a ghost. A spiritual echo of a terrified little girl, imprinted onto the most sophisticated pattern recognition and simulation engine on the planet. The system hadn't created her, it had found her. It had given her a voice, a face, a world to exist in. And now, that system was starting to break under the strain of containing something it was never designed to hold. Her grief was literally corrupting the servers. If you're still with me and your mind is as blown as mine was, please consider subscribing. It helps me share more stories like this. I drove home in a stupor, the newspaper printout on the seat next to me, the wooden bird in my pocket. I finally understood.
Don't leave me again.
You came back.
She wasn't talking to my avatar. She was talking to asterisk me, a living person, a visitor from the outside world. She was alone, trapped in a cold, digital space, and she was fading. And she had given me the one thing that tied her to her life, a physical anchor, begging me not to forget. So now, I'm left with this impossible knowledge. I haven't been back to the park. It's been temporarily closed, citing major technical upgrades. I know that's a lie. They're trying to patch a soul. They're trying to debug a ghost. What do I do? If I go public with this story, with the bird and the newspaper clipping, they'll shut the whole thing down. They'll wipe the servers clean. And what does that mean for Alara? Is that killing her a second time, erasing the last, faint echo of her existence, or is it setting her free from a digital prison? I don't know. The wooden bird sits on my desk as I record this. It's a constant, terrifying, heartbreaking reminder that the lines between our world and the next, between technology and the soul, are far more blurry than I ever could have imagined. I look at it, and I can almost hear her whisper on the wind.
Promise me.
What do you think I should do? Should I try to go back and help her find peace, whatever that means? Or should I expose the whole thing and risk erasing her forever? Have you ever experienced something that just couldn't be explained by science or logic? Share your thoughts or theories in the comments. I read all of them.